Hello friends, very good morning to all of you. So friends, welcome back to Anthropology PYQ series. So in today's discussion, same, like let's take up one question and let's try to understand the approach and answer for that particular question. So myself, Dr. Suresh Guramkunda, I'm the faculty of Anthropology at Sriram's IAS. So friends, as daily we are learning and trying to solve one question. So today we have reached to 48th day. So I hope you are just following this session properly and you are just benefiting out of it. So let's look at the question of the day. So the question of the day that is there with us is that write a short notes on the following in about 150 words. So the question is all about tribalism and pseudo-tribalism. So this is the question that's there with us. So the question is very direct and the question is very straightforward question. So where you have to write a note on tribalism and you have to write a note on pseudo-tribalism. So straightforward question. So here, so did anyone attempt, those who have joined in online, so have you attempted this particular question? And if there is any inputs, you can just give in the session. So that's one thing. So how you should just approach and how you should just proceed towards this particular question. So in the very basic introduction, you should talk about basically tribalism and pseudo-tribalism are nothing but two important processes that are there in the society. Like that, you can just introduce the basic aspects about tribalism and pseudo-tribalism. Then you can systematically explain what is tribalism, the definition part, and then you can explain the characteristics of tribalism and you can give some examples for it. Then later on you can move towards pseudo-tribalism. There you can explain what is all about pseudo-tribalism and give some of the important characteristics of it, and then you can just wind off the discussion. So that's how you can proceed to this particular question. So I hope this is clear to you all now. Now, if you see from the perspective of tribalism, so what is tribalism? So if you know anything, you can text in the chat box so that you can be participative in the discussion. So first let's try to understand about what is tribalism. So friends, try to just remember one thing. Wherever you see the word ism basically refers to a type of ideology. So have you heard about things like regionalism? Have you heard about communalism? So tribalism, so all those things. Ism refers to basically ideology. So in a very basic sense to say, tribalism is nothing but it's a sort of ideology where a particular person or a particular group, that is individual or a group, will have a sense of strong attachment towards one's own tribal group or one's own social group. So that particular ideology or that particular process is called as tribalism. Say here, what happens here is that because of its shared ancestry or because of the shared kinship or because of the shared cultural identity, the group or individuals or the groups will have more loyalty, more love and more affection towards their own group, so that they'll be attached very closely to that particular group. So that's what is basically known as the tribalism. So same thing you might have heard with respect to regionalism also. So where regionalism is nothing but it's a strong sense of attachment towards one's own region. So it creates a sense of oneness. In the similar fashion, tribalism is also creates a sense of oneness. So all those things you should remember, right? So in a very simple fashion to say what is tribalism. So tribalism basically means it's a strong sense of attachment, or you can also say loyalty towards one's own tribal group. So this is what basically you can say with respect to the tribalism. Now, what is the reasons for this? So reasons are that, so mostly we can have, so in simple fashion, this occurs because of shared cultural identity. This could be one reason. Cultural identity, due to similar cultural identity. Then next you can mention, like say for example, common ancestry. So ancestors could be similar. So because of this, so this is another important reason. And then you can have other things. Say for example, due to shared kinship organization, common kinship organization or kinship thing. So all these factors will create a sense of love, attachment, a sense of loyalty towards that particular tribal group. So that is basically, we can say it as the tribalism. Now, when we talk about the further aspects about the tribalism, so we have to talk about some of the important characteristics of the tribalism. So as I have said, this is an attachment towards the group. So this sense will have some basic characteristics. Say for example, so what are the basic characteristics? So let's try to understand them. So when we talk about the characteristics in a very simple fashion, so first you can have things like, they will have a sense of, say, cultural primitiveness. So this would be one thing. So culturally primitive culture. So this is one basic thing. That means tribalism promotes or fosters, so the traditional culture are primitive cultures. So it fosters or it promotes. So here you can also mention primitive or traditional culture, because the tribalism, that itself is a sense of strong attachment towards that group because of this kind of things, say cultural identity. So now, does this process or this ideology will support changes in their culture? Obviously, so it would be a kind of conservative ideology will be there. So there, mostly they will foster or it will promote, fosters, or you can also mention promotes. That's one thing. Then furthermore, if you see, as we are saying that it would be a strong love and affection towards their own tribal group. So further thing, what we can expect is that this further promotes or this further favors the primitive modes of subsistence. So this is another important thing. So supports primitive modes of subsistence. So that would be one another thing. So it will be doing that. So that is another important aspect, so that you should remember. Right, friends? So any other points that you have represented? No. Okay. So then if you see further, so as I have already said that, so this is an ideology that attaches to a tribal group. So there we can have primitive lifestyle. So decentralized governance and authority. This would be supported. This would be supported. So this kind of ideology would be supported. So where they don't like to just adapt new modes of governance or new modes of things. So simply they will follow their own traditional styles like that, traditional ways of governance or traditional ways of authority modes. So here in primitive modes, like say for example shifting culture. So those tribes who are following shifting kind of culture, they will follow the same, and those who will follow say pastoralism, Todas kind of people, so they always they love to be in attached with that kind of mode of subsistence only. So like that will be there. So then other important thing is that, so this tribalism kind of ideology systematically, it continues to explore or provide emphasis on the kinship ties as well as you can say shared identity. So you can have that. So emphasizes kinship and you say cultural or you can say ethnic identity. So they would love to have this. So like that, so tribalism advocates for some of such kind of things. Say, you can take up any example here in this sense, say for example Todas. So Todas will have the love towards their own culture and their own way of life. Say for example, there would be a kind of bow and arrow ceremony amongst the tribals. So they love to just do this. So even in the modern times also, they won't leave their cultural practice, rather they will stick to the cultural practice. So even in the modern days also, so although we have changed a lot, so due to technological advancements and the cultural progress, despite of it, Todas will be they are still engaged in some sort of the dairy related products. That shows that their affinity or attachment towards their culture. So that's what we can say. So we can take up any other example in the similar fashion. So tribals are mostly they are engaged in their own ways of cultural lifestyle. So this is basically you can remember as the tribalism in very simple fashion, right? So I hope this is clear to you all. So then what about the next one, pseudo-tribalism? So pseudo-tribalism means what? Now can you able to guess what is pseudo-tribalism? Look at the word and try to say pseudo-tribalism. That itself saying something or converting something. Pseudo-tribalism means what? The name itself, it says that it's a kind of false tribalism. It's a kind of fake tribalism, or it's a kind of tribalism that is not original in form, rather it is a kind of borrowed type of tribalism that we can say. So here what happens means certain non-tribal people, that means originally they will be not tribals. Non-tribals, they will try to emulate and adopt certain tribal characteristics. Tribal characteristics. And claims tribal status. So this is what that happens in the pseudo-tribalism. So you should remember that. So this kind of things will happen in pseudo-tribalism, right? So good. So you're saying, Vinishri is saying false tribalism. Exactly. So where non-tribals will try to emulate the tribal practices, or non-tribals will try to adapt the lifestyle or culture of the tribal population. So there they will try to imitate and emulate that, so that they can accord. So why this will happen? So usually these things will happen so that they can have some sort of benefits. Say for example, there could be political reasons, there could be some other things, like say for example, constitutional affirmative action to get benefits out of the reservations. So that is one basic cause. So you can have that as an example. So to get benefits of affirmative actions. Affirmative actions provided by government. So what is this affirmative action? So to simplify it, it would be a kind of reservation. So we have already discussed in previous question also, stating that, so Article 15 subclass 4 and Article 16 subclass 4, isn't it? So both of them provides a kind of affirmative action, that is reservations to the backward classes. So in the similar fashion, so for SCs and STs also, Article 15 subclass, in subclasses we have that reservation. So this kind of thing will will push or attract some of the non-tribals to claim the tribal status. Say for example, so one common example that we can pitch is that, so Gujars are claiming scheduled tribal category status. So this is one common example that we can take up. So although using the word fake would be a kind of harsh word, rather we can say that they might have adapted the practices and that they are just climbing. So reasons could be different. So one of the reason is this kind of thing. So to get reservations or to get some sort of benefits or to get some sort of other aspects. So this is where we can have. So then if you see what are the basic characteristics of this. So if you see some of the characteristics, so basically that tribalism was original thing. So but here it is not a original kind of thing. So rather it is a kind of constructed identity. So they love or they will have a kind of constructed identity. So this is one important thing. So let's take up the characteristics. In the characteristics first, you can mention, so they will have affinity towards constructed identity. Constructed identity means, so it's not original identity, rather they will have a sense that they are just having that. That's one another thing. So any other characteristics you can just remember. So then if you see this pseudo-tribalism, it generally tends to create some sort of conflicts or it tries to make a sense of rivalry between the communities. So because of the pseudo-tribalism, we can you can say enhances ethnic conflicts in society. So this is one important thing that you can remember. So how, say for example, so what's happening in Rajasthan, say Gujars versus Meenas. So there was an ethnic conflict. So why? Because these people are claiming the tribal category status. So this kind of examples. So you can just pick and mention. So that is another important thing. So then if you see, they are trying to emulate and adapt the tribal practices. So here the culture is not the original thing. So rather it is a kind of borrowed culture. So this is another thing. So where you can just have, so a kind of thing that we can say instrumental adaptation of the culture of tribes. So this would be one important thing. So that is another thing. So these are some of the basic characteristics or some of the points that you can pitch. So adapted identity will be there, constructed identity will be there, and they won't have any kind of shared or common ancestry. So, but rather they will be pitching and they will be taking and they will be having this kind of affinity towards the thing and they will climb the tribal category status. So like that you can just make up and you can just mention some of the points and you can just conclude the answer. So where in this picture, like you can mention some of the concepts, say for example, tribe caste continuum. So Elvin Gure debate. So you can say some of the such kind of things, and you can just conclude the concept. So is there any particular doubts for anyone on this particular thing? Right, so that's all for the day. So this is a short question, so there is no much description for this particular question also. So simply approach you have to follow, and you have to write it directly. So that's all for the day from my side, friends. So let's meet tomorrow again with another important question. So till then, keep revising all the questions that we have done and try to write answers for the question, and don't be a kind of wanderer around the UPSC. So rather be a kind of actual aspirant. So remember that winners don't do different things, they do things differently. So try to just adapt your own strategy so that you can crack the examination. So it's me, your Dr. Suresh Kuramkunda, signing off for the day. So let's meet again tomorrow. Thank you all of you for joining this session.